Hello. Good afternoon to all of you, and welcome to this visa session. We might want to start in a couple of minutes because hopefully there would be other students who would join us. So let's just give it another 5 minutes and get started because I can see only a few of you here. So we'll just wait for another 5 minutes and get started. In the meantime, if you have received admits or you heard from universities, um, do send us an email about the updates. So even if it is not an admit, if it's a reject, it will help, if you inform us. So just go ahead and send us an email and update us on the status of your application. So even if it's a reject, just inform us so that we can, record that. Yeah, please email us, Upasna. So see that so that we don't miss out on any points. So if you have any updates on admits or rejects, see that you email us so that we will collate it and keep it for our record as well, and we'll be able to guide you better. We will look at questions towards the end of the session. I will complete the session and then you're free to ask questions towards the end, 10 minutes towards the end of the session. You can always put these questions in the chat in the attendee question section, and then I'll take them up. Okay, so we haven't started yet. We are waiting for a couple more minutes, waiting for others to join. Okay. So if there is any concern on the audio, I would suggest you go out of the session and log in again, because that would resolve it. It could be probably a bandwidth issue. So you can go back and come back and join again. Like I mentioned, I will be taking all the queries towards the end, towards the last 10 minutes of the session. Okay, so you will want to hang on till then. I'll just want to finish what I have to say, and then we'll discuss all the queries. You can put it either in the, best would be to put it in the question section of the attendees, So that way, everybody can view those questions. Okay, so let's get started without any further delay. So first and foremost, we at Galvanize would like to congratulate all of you on getting your admits. So it's been a pleasure guiding all of you throughout the application process, and we wish that you also cross this last hurdle of the process, which is the visa. Okay, and that's the reason why we have this session today. So before we get into the session, I wanted to just run you through the overview, what I have in store for you. The first and foremost, in the first place, I'm going to discuss, and I've shared these details with all of you as early as February, when we started getting the first admit. So when the first admit came through for the fall 19, we shared this audio recording with you, which is called as, you might want to dig through your emails, it's called as What After Admits. Okay, and it's a recording, it's an audio recording. So you can go through that, and it basically explains what are the immediate steps. And I'm going to repeat a part of that section today, because without that you can't really proceed. So let's start with, what do you do? What are the first steps after the admit? So as soon as you get an admit, the university might give you a timeline to accept the admit. Okay, that could be the first admit that you have. So the first thing that you would want to do is, if at all you've applied to other universities and have not received or heard from them, you want to actually go ahead and ask the university for an extension. Just email them and request for an extension. Say that I would like to, work on my financial documents or some such thing, and they would be, most of the universities, obliged by giving an extension. So if you ask for an extension, it does not mean it's going to in any way affect your admit. Okay, so while you're waiting on other admits, go ahead and ask for an extension if there is any confirmation required, or if there is any payment to block your seat. Okay, now this is step one, and there is no need to get super anxious about the first. Of course, you need to get started with all the documentation work. The second thing, if you have multiple admits, for those of you who have multiple admits, that's really great, but you need to pick and choose very carefully. You need to weigh the pros and cons and then decide where you're going, right? And for this, you would want to do a little bit of comparison. You would want to compare a few factors and then decide what is the best for you. And for those of you who have already started receiving multiple admits, we would have sent you that comparison grid. If you do not have it, we will send it to you shortly. That's only after you get multiple admits though. Okay, now you are going to compare various factors. You're going to weigh the pros and cons. So in terms of curriculum, in terms of location, in terms of cost, in terms of any scholarship, and of course, the end result. I mean, what is it that you want to gain from that program? So you'll compare these factors and then decide whether it's the right place for you to be in. Okay, so the first thing is about confirming the admit, and the second thing is about comparing the admits and deciding the pros and cons. Okay, once you have sent us that grid, we will then help you finalize which one is the final, which would be the best university for you, right? So these are the two first steps, and then you get started with. So if you're applying, I think I can see that most of you are looking at US, right? So let's focus on that, and of course I will come to the other countries shortly. So most important about the US is that once you've received an admit, they will ask you for some financial affidavit. So they'll ask you for a financial certificate, just so that they basically are confident that you have that funds, and that the next step for the university would be to release your I-20, which is the visa document. Okay, so in between the time that you actually confirm your admit, you will have to start working on these financial documents, and there are just two documents that you need to work on. There will be a form that you need to submit to the university, which is called as a financial certificate. It has your details, and it will also ask you what is the source of your funding. And then it will also ask you who is going to be your sponsor. Okay, so you'll want to mention these details in that form, and then you'll have to sign and scan and send it to them, or you'll have to courier it. Okay. Now, very, very important, and this has been elaborately discussed in What After Admits. If you go through the recordings, most important thing that you have to understand here is when you're sending these financial documents, you don't have to have the money necessarily present in the account of your sponsor. It is just a solvency letter from your bank that you're going to produce at this point of time, which again takes care of the first year's cost. Okay, so you're really not, so the first year's cost is what you're going to take care through this statement. And then of course for this next subsequent year, if it's a 2-year program, you're looking at maybe, taking support from the loan. But at the same time, while you do this, you don't want to show the entire support from the loan. That is not advisable. Okay. So this is about, how you're going to work on those financial documents. Yeah. Now, when you're looking at the financial documents, I've shared these documents as well as a step 2, where I've shared the templates for the bank solvency letter and the affidavit of support. What are these? The explanation for those. And I've also shared one other Excel sheet, which is called as a fund flow, where you can put down the funds that your family or your sponsors have, and that will also help you to, practically decide whether you need, how much of loan you need, whether you need a loan at all, okay, or whether your own family savings are good enough to fund your education. Okay, so these are things that you already shared with you. So most important thing, what after admits, you need to compare the university, decide on which is the best. First, get an extension if you're waiting for more admits, and then you need to work on the financial documents which are required to release your I-20. I-20 is a document which is like a visa permit for you to go and appear for the visa. Okay, so you'll have to get that, and for that they need these financial documents. Okay, bank solvency letter, affidavit of support. Some universities might have their own form where you need to just get the bank manager sign on that form, or you can use the generic template that we have shared with you. Okay, you get it printed on the letterhead of the bank, and then that's what you said. Okay, right? So this is in a nutshell about the first steps. What else am I going to cover today? So this is in a nutshell about what after admits. The most important thing that I'm going to try and cover today is the process. So let's first understand the visa process, and let's make it very simple. Whichever country you're applying for, what is it that this whole visa process is all about? Most important, there are 3 aspects to it. First and foremost, okay, there is a website where you have all the information and where you go and actually go and book your visa. You actually apply for the visa. So any country, whether it's Canada, whether it's US, whether it's Germany, Netherlands, any country, there is a website where you need to actually go ahead and apply for the visa. Okay, in different countries it is called as by different names. In US it is called as a F1 visa, right? So I'm not going to move these slides. I'm just going to do an overview right now. I'll move the slides shortly. Now, once you've done that, once you've registered, of course, when you're registering for the visa for any country, there is always a fee, a visa processing fee, an administrative fee, and that will differ from country to country. So there's a link where you need to actually go ahead and fill a form, okay, and there is a fee that you need to pay, and you'll also have to, get that, you'll get an acknowledgement of paying the fee. Okay. Now, when you're filling the form, you'll also have certain documents. So some countries might need you to send those documents along with the form. Some universities might want you to. Some countries might want you to carry these documents. Okay. Okay. Now, most important thing is, if you're looking at countries like US, Germany, Netherlands, then these countries require a personal interview where you need to appear in front of the visa officer and then go for an interview. Whereas if you're looking at Canada or Australia or any of these countries, you don't need a personal interview. You just need to submit documents. Okay. Now, so the first part is a website. Second part is that you need to fill a form, and there are different types of forms. Okay. Some might need, photographs to be uploaded, some might need documents to be uploaded. Okay, so on and so forth. And then the last but not the least, of course, there'll be certain documents that you need to send. There's a whole list. Most of the times, whichever country you're applying for, what you need to understand is that that set of documents don't really differ that much. So these documents, I'm just giving you an overview right now. I'm going to run you through the slides as well. These documents are going to be, most important will be certain visa documents, okay, which is, the logistics of the visa, the fee payment, the I-20 or the visa permit in other countries, and then the passport, of course. Okay, so these are the documents, these are the logistics documents, without which you can't, actually go for the visa. And then there is a second set of documents which are actually your academic documents. Okay, and there are academic documents and there are financial documents. Now these also don't change from country to country that much. The last part of the process is basically, is basically some of these countries, like for example, Canada or Australia, might need an additional requirement of medical certification. So they might want you to undergo certain tests and give, basically carry a healthy, that you're in good health certificate. So there'll be certain tests that you have to do, and that also is required. Now that is not required for all countries, only these two countries require it. Okay, so the process is the same. Like I said, certain countries will require to actually go there physically, stand in front of the visa officer and answer a few questions, and then produce those documents. Some other countries would actually require to send these documents to a visa evaluation officer, and they will go through all of those documents and then tell you whether you have cleared the visa or not. Okay, so the process is, overall this. Yeah, I hope I've made my, the whole thing clear, and this is exactly what I'm going to discuss. So we've started with, I'll just summarize. We started with confirming the admit, okay, getting an extension, comparing the admits, deciding on which admit. Okay, it's always good to, basically go ahead only with one admit and not take too many admits, because then, that way you're not preventing other students from getting that admit. So when you're sure, absolutely sure, you would want to go to that particular university. Okay, and go ahead and proceed with the I-20 process, right? And then, of course, I discussed about, the whole visa process. So let's go through these slides one at a time and understand how, and then I'll be open to taking questions. So I'm going to start with the type of visa. I'm going to start with US and then move on to the other countries, because predominantly we have most of you looking at US. Okay, so let's get started. So when you're looking at the visa, especially for the US students, it is going to be the F1 visa. Okay, so you are a non-immigrant visa applicant and you're going to be looking at F1 visa. So when you go to that website, you're going to be selecting the F1 visa, which is a student visa, right? Okay, so this is basically what is required. So F1 visa, non-immigration visa, and then I'm going to share this presentation as well, and there'll be, we'll also be sharing how to fill the form, yeah, at later stages. So we'll do it step by step. I don't want to overburden you with everything. We'll do it step by step and then proceed as and when you get to that stage. Okay, I-20 is a letter from the university, which is the visa permit. This is how it looks. This is very important because it has a SEVIS letter, a SEVIS number, which is a security system. And only when they scan the barcode, when you have that SEVIS number, you need to enter that in the form that you're filling for visa. Only then your application gets complete. Okay, so this is how your I-20 will look like. So where you have the program mentioned, you have the amount that is required, everything is clearly mentioned here. And of course, you need to sign it. Okay, so again, I've just explained what is SEVIS. Yeah, it is a security system which they have designed lately. This is a website where you need to register for your visa. Of course, I will be sending you these details, but just so that you know. What is the form that you're going to fill? The form is called as DS-160. Okay, and it's a pretty simple form. It is about you about your family, your purpose of travel, why do you want to travel, what have you been doing, whether you're a student, whether you're working, okay, which program are you applying for, what is the duration. So all that information, very generic, but of course, if you have any queries and doubts, you can always, get back to us. Yeah, so you need to create this, you basically need to, fill the form, okay, check what are the dates available. Once you get the date, then you pay the fee. You'll get an acknowledgement number. Once you get that acknowledgement number, only when you get that acknowledgement number can you go ahead and put that number. And then there is another process for the student visa that is called as a service fee. So for you to actually be able to use the service system, there's a fee, that's a $200 fee which you're paying, and that website is also listed here. And both these receipts are needed when you go for the visa. Okay, so this is basically, okay. Now, when you're looking at the visa appointment date, there are 2 steps to it. Okay, the most important thing is that these days they don't need photographs. Earlier on, they used to actually require photographs. So you had to, you had to take, you have to go to a photo studio, get the prescribed format and carry them with you. But these days they have, they don't want that. You're going to go to a, you're going to go to a biometric center in person, and you're going to be, you'll have your fingerprints taken and also your photograph in front of the visa officer. But this step is prior to you going for the actual interview. So you will have to book 2 dates. One which is for the biometric process, and the second which is for the actual interview. Okay. Now, most important thing about the consulate. Now you will have to take, you'll have to consider, don't get carried away by what others have to say. You'll have to actually go to a consulate which is nearest to you. Okay, there is nothing like, see, if you have a very good profile and you have a good admit, then there's no denying you of the visa. Okay, so there is no good consulate and bad consulate. Okay, so it's not like, Chennai is bad, they get a lot of rejects. That's nothing of that sort. You just have to select the consulate where you have been residing for the last 6 months. Okay, remember that. Okay, so most important thing. So that's what I wanted to actually. So, okay, so that is most important for you. Yeah, I've just captured some questions here as far as, the DS 160 form is concerned, and this is how it looks. It's very simple. It's about you. Okay, what is your native language? English. If it is not English, then you have to, leave it blank. So for whatever is not applicable, you just say not available. Just say not applicable. Simple. Okay. So this is how the form looks like. I'm just giving you an overview of how the personal information, most of it is all personal information about your education, about your work. Okay, passport document. Okay, so passport number is the same thing. You just don't have to get confused. Okay, where are you going to stay there? You just have to say, you just have to give the university address, because you're going to assume that you don't know anybody there. Who's going to sponsor the trip? You would want to mention your parents, because if you're not an earning member, it's always good to mention your sponsor's name. Okay, so this is how, in a nutshell, how the form looks like. They will ask you questions about your siblings, about your parents. Where are your siblings? So you'll have to mention it. You'll have to mention whatever is true, because you really can't hide the details, because if it's the same last name that they carry, then the visa officer can find out. So whatever is true, if you have siblings and immediate close relatives in that country, do mention so. You can't hide that information. Okay, photograph is not needed to be uploaded, it will be taken there, right? So these are the rough documents. Of course, I'm going to send you these details, but just so that you can have a look. The DS 160, the visa fee that you're paid, the service fee that you're paid, the receipt of that, You can carry photographs if you want to, but it's not a must. Okay. So these are some of the documents. These are the first set of documents for visa. And of course, your appointment confirmation and passport, which is an I-20. These are the first set. Okay. So this is how you need to work on the set of documents. And of course, I'll send you a detailed note about it. So you start with your, so let me just give you the categorization. Yeah. So the first set of documents, as far as the primary documents are concerned, is, your passport, your visa form. Okay. So these are the primary documents that you need to have. Your I-20, of course, you don't want to forget that, and your scorecards. So your academic documents would be your scorecard, your marks cards. So even if you're working, you need to have your marks cards. Okay. All of your marks cards original. All marks cards original. Any document that I'm listing here has to be original except for the financial documents. I'll come to that. So most important thing here is all your marks cards have to be original. GRE and TOEFL or IELTS course you can download and take from the website. Or if you have the actual scorecard, that's good. Your 10th and 12th also it's good to carry. Okay, and all your engineering and your degree marks cards and your masters if you have a masters as well. Okay, if you have corresponded with any universities and received some positive responses, do carry that as well. Most important thing, do carry other admits and other reject letters also, just to be on the safe side. Okay, so this is about the primary set of documents, and then the next set of documents would be, yes, and not to forget your degree certificate. Okay, so for those of you who was not going to get that degree certificate by the time you go for the visa, most important, get a provisional degree certificate from your college. You cannot take the risk of not taking this document with you for the visa. Okay, so go and apply for a provisional degree certificate if you are not going to get your degree certificate by the time you go for visa, which is around July. Okay, so these are some of the documents which are must have. Then coming to the financial documents. I've already explained to you what is a the bank solvency letter and the affidavit, right? The bank solvency is nothing, a letter from the bank that, this person who is sponsoring you is having that kind of funds. They have those assets and they'll be able to fund your education. That template is already provided. Affidavit of support, on the other hand, is on a stamp paper, and here your sponsor says that he or she is willing to sponsor your education. So it's basically an assurance given to the university that you have funds when required. Okay, so these are the two main documents. Other than that, you also would need a CA statement, which again talks about everything. So it's basically going to combine all the assets that your family has or your sponsor has. So it's going to talk about the liquid assets, the immovable assets, and I'll explain what this means, and the current income in the family. Now, what do you mean by liquid assets? Liquid assets are assets which are basically your fixed deposit, provident funds, your mutual funds, your something that can be immediately liquefied. So something that you can actually go ahead and get cash against, and of course any savings in the bank account. Okay, then the immovable assets are a house or a property. Okay, so these could be immobile assets. And then when you're coming to the current income in the family, it is any income that comes in the family. So it could be both your parents are working, then their income. It could be rental income. Okay, if you are working, it will not count there because you are not going to be working when you are a student. Okay, so your income is not going to be accounted for in this. So that's a CA statement. You'll have to talk to a CA whom you know, anybody in your family knows, and they will be able to, they are well versed with it. You can always give them the template and they'll be able to make it for you. Because this CA statement helps you actually summarize all the assets that you have. You don't have to then, think through everything. It's there in one page, 2 sheets of paper, and you will be able to, recall it properly. Of course, you don't want to by heart it, but you will be able to recall if you are asked these questions, right? Now, whatever is mentioned on the CA statement is also supposed to be carried with you. You can take photocopies as well. So if it's a house, immovable asset like a house or a site, you will want to have, even a photocopy would do. just to show that it is in the name of your sponsor. Okay, then you also need to carry, if it's FDs or provident fund, bank solvency letter, all of these you need to carry the copies for. Okay, so just keep that. It's not like the visa officer will ask you for it, but it's always good to have. Okay, now before we get into more details, I want to define who can be your sponsor, because this is one big question that you always have. So the most important thing that you need to understand about sponsor is that the sponsor needs to be, it's always good to have a sponsor who is a blood relative. So it could be your parents, any one of your parents or both the parents. It could be grandparents. It could be your immediate, immediate uncle or aunt. Okay. Now, whatever you do, whoever is your sponsor when you're sending these financial documents to the university for the I-20 release, it's good to have the same guy sponsor you when you go for the visa. Don't change the story as much as possible. So in a rush to send your documents to the university to release your I-20, you wouldn't want to actually, complicate things for yourself. The reason being, if you notice, if you go back to the I-20 document, there is a place which, actually mentions the sponsor's name. And for most of the countries, it is mentioned there. In the visa permit letter, this sponsor's name is always mentioned there. So it will come in writing in bold, who is going to be your sponsor. So it will be, they will say family, they will say, if you have specified it, they will, put the name. Okay, you don't want to change that because the university already has that for record when they release the I-20. And this is also going into the visa officer's record. So, you don't want to complicate it. See that you maintain the same sponsor. Okay. Only in worst case scenario, when your parents are really not able to sponsor you, you would want to involve others. Okay. Another thing that I wanted to mention, and which is very, very crucial for the visa, it is not your visa, the success of your visa is not the factor of your money available. Okay. And as we proceed in the session, you will realize that. Okay. So the success of your visa is totally dependent on, your profile, the kind of university you have received an admit from, and how you speak confidently in front of the visa officer. Okay. It is not a factor of the money available. And once we do mocks for you, you will get to know how you need to answer these questions also. Okay. So don't be too overwhelmed. So it is okay to have only maybe a year's funding with you, as with your parents as savings. It is not necessary that you have to have the entire 2 years funds available with you. Okay. The second year you can always look at loan, but again, it is not advisable to look at the entire loan amount. Okay, you cannot fund the entire degree through a loan amount. That is something that would not sound practical. Okay, because you will have to show some funds from yourself, from within the family. Okay, now one more thing that you have to understand is, after you are done with the visa, it doesn't matter to the university how you fund your education. Okay, so so if it is practically not possible for you to for you to actually use that family funds for your education, that's fine. But when you're building your case and going for the visa, you need to actually show some of your own funds. Whether you use them or not is a different question altogether. That is totally dependent on you. But when you go for the visa, you will have to show maybe at least a year's funds from your own family sources, from your sponsors' sources. Okay, so understand this. So when you show it on paper, it's what you're showing on paper is different from what you're actually doing. Okay, so don't get bogged down and think that 20 lakhs or 30 lakhs, it's going to be very difficult for me. You may not actually end up using that money. Whether to use that money or not is a decision that you and your parents or your family take. You can go, you can use the entire amount from the loan itself also. That's left to you. But when you're going for visa, you will have to show your own funds. Please remember this. Okay, I hope I'm clear. And I've also described about the sponsor, who can be the sponsor, all of that, right? Okay, so this is how the funding works. Who is the sponsor? What are the documents? And you'll basically see, you'll basically try and get to see these documents one at a time. Like I said, I don't want to send all these documents all at once, for the simple reason that it might just bog you down. So right now, like I said, we have shared only the definition of what after admits, what are those, what is a solvency certificate, what is affidavit of support. That's it. Then going further from there, the fund flow statement, because you need to understand how to put all your funds together, and whether what kind of loans you need. So all these, and then we will follow it up with other set of documents that are required for visa. Okay, so don't rush into it. Now let's understand what actually goes on and what is this visa interview all about and what are they looking for. Right? I mentioned that it is not basically about your finances. Okay. So most important thing when you're going for the visa, whichever country you're applying for, the visa officer wants to know your purpose of going. Just like you did in the applications, right? I mean, the purpose of applying. So through your statement of purpose, the same thing they're trying to identify, they're trying to gauge. So through basically 2 minutes or 3 minutes interview, the visa officers are trained to understand what is the whole purpose. How are you able to justify your reasons for going for that degree? Okay, so they are trying to understand whether you are actually going as a student or you're going as a potential immigrant. Okay, whether you have sufficient funds, your financial situation, whether you're going to be able to support your education, and whether these are basically you have not actually forged those documents. They are actually genuine documents. Okay. And then of course you have all the documents that are required. So you're not come with some missing documents. They ask you for a degree certificate, you don't have it, or they ask you for the GRE scores, you don't have them. So on those accounts also they could send you back. Okay, so these are things that you need to remember. What is it that the visa officer is looking for? Okay, reasons why the visas are refused. I mean, if there are some careless mistakes in filling the form, okay, you have too many backlogs. Yeah, so they feel that if you have too many backlogs in India, you will not be able to cope with your studies there. Your GRE or your TOEFL IELTS scores are really weak. Okay, and then some other problems, and you faced some problems earlier, some immigration problems earlier. Okay, then again you are not able to establish that the reasons for coming back. And of course we will train you much more when you do the mock, and we cannot generalize this. It has to be very customized to each one of your cases. Okay, so how do you actually increase the chances of getting the visa? You want to build a strong case by putting everything down. Why are you studying? What subject are you studying? Why this university? Why are you leaving your job? These are some of the questions that they ask. Okay, most important thing is why are you coming? What is a strong point for you to come back? Okay. And then of course, if you fumble, if you are not very if you do not maintain eye contact, these are again things that we will explain when we do the mock with you. You don't have any supporting documents for some of the documents that they need. Okay, you are not able to speak properly. You get because you're nervous. Then there could be problems of the visa. Okay, they might just think that you're hiding information, but we'll provide you a mock and we'll train you about for this. Okay, so these are some of the things which will help you excel at the visa interview. So you want to speak in a very confident manner. Don't get agitated. You are not defending yourself, and some people, when you're asked personal questions, you don't want to get defensive. Okay, so because these are all why questions, so you don't have to get defensive at all. You just have to be very calm, polite, and answer the question. So I've just come up and we'll share with you, these experiences that other students have had in the past. So you can just go through this. This was one of the students who had received an admit from CMU. Look at the kind of questions, okay? Most important, greeting, then the fingerprints, then which schools did you apply to? Why did you choose CMU over other schools? Okay, what does your father do? What does your mother do? What is the combined income? Uh, do you have a scholarship? How do you plan to fund this amount? Okay, and then you explain, and that's it. So the visa was approved. So it's a matter of just 2 minutes probably. Okay. Worst case scenario, you don't get a visa first time, you can apply again in 3 days. Same process applies. Okay, most important thing that you need to that I mentioned earlier also, if you're looking at Canadian visa and Australian visa, you need a medical immunization certificate also. Okay, you want to enter the country only 1 month before the course starts. You cannot enter the country before that. Okay, now the same process for Canada. Those of you are applying for Canada, I don't think I see anybody here. But like I mentioned, it's going to be, there's a website, you need to fill a form. Okay, and then once you fill now in Canada, you don't do a personal interview. Okay, so you actually submit all these documents with the form. Okay, and then they will decide. So you won't want to not miss out on any documents. See that you're very careful, arrange all the documents and send them. You also want to get the medical test done and then send these documents accordingly, so that see, because it's I would say it's easier to go in person and explain the situation rather than not being able to talk to the visa officer and let them let just the documents speak for you. Okay, so then you just have to wait. After you submitted the documents, there's you just have to check your status and wait for it. Okay. So this is basically how the whole process works for Canada. You have the forms that I've mentioned, you fill them, and then you pay the fees and send the documents along with the medical. Germany, you do have the personal interview. So you'll fill the form and then you'll carry these documents and go for a personal interview. Now there is another step is every country has its own peculiarity. Like for example, Canada and Australia has something to do with the medical immunization letter. Germany wants you to actually, the German universities actually want you to open a blocked account where you deposit 8,000 euros, which is a fee that is required for living expenses in Germany. So you want to show them that you have proof of sufficient funding, and then of course the same kind of documents are getting carried. Okay, so this is in short, and again Netherlands, the same process where you go for a personal interview. Most of the universities in Netherlands will help you through the whole visa process themselves. So there's not much that you need to do. They'll send you the permit letter, and then they'll guide you through the process as well. So again, if you look at the documents for any country, it is the same. Either you go for biometric and give the fingerprints and photo, or you carry those documents with you. You also carry the same documents, academic documents, the visa documents, and then financial documents. There is nothing that changes from country to country. So if you have made them for one particular country, you can reuse it for other countries as well. So what I've done here is I've just summarized all the websites. Process remains more or less the same. These are the common countries that most of our students have decided to apply. So I've just summarized the links where you will be able to get further information. And then if you have any more queries on the visa process specifically, we can always you can always mail us and contact us through email, so that we'll be able to give you those inputs as well. Okay, so the most important thing right now for you to think about is getting a comparing those universities, weighing the pros and cons, deciding where you want to go, and then once you get one admit, see if you can get an extension so that you can wait for the other admits. So these are two things. And in the meantime, start working on your financial documents. So your loans, think about, talk to your parents, understand whether, you need a loan, because by now, once you receive the first admit, you know the kind of cost that is required, what is the amount that is required. So you see what finances are available, put down those details on that fund flow statement. We will guide you and tell you what you need to do next, whether you really need a loan or not. Okay, and whether whether how much of it is required, or whether what funds you have are enough. Okay, unless you put it down on paper, talk to your sponsor, you will really not be able to decide whether you have enough funding. Okay, so don't get hassled, do it in a very systematic way, and then then you can decide whether to apply for loan. We will be able to guide you on loans as well. I have Mr. Raghuvir in this session. I've actually shared his number with a few of you. He'll be able to actually guide you and inform you about who's the best loan, which is the best loan institute that you can look for. So there are so many of them available. There's Credila, there's Ganthan, there's Prodigy. So depending on your profile and depending on what how you want to go about it, collateral loans, non-collateral loans, all of that, you can decide and choose the loan vendors. Okay, he'll be able to guide you on this process as well. I will take the questions now, and then I'll also. So one more thing that we are going to do in this coming week is we are going to share a short. We are going to share a very short form with you. Okay, where we want to actually get an understanding of which countries did you apply to. Of course, we know about it, most of it, but if there have been any changes, which universities did you finally apply to, and then the admits and rejects, because we want to collate all of that. This form is very important because this will help us guide you better in the visa process. Okay, this form also has questions on whether you require a loan, so that we can guide you on that front as well. Okay, so see that as soon as the form is sent to you, see that you get back, fill the form and update us at the earliest, so that we'll be able to have that for record, and based on that we'll be able to guide you on the visa process. Okay, so that's another thing that you'll get to see next week. I would want to start taking the questions. So I'm just going to go through each of this. Okay. Yeah, so I think I have just one question here from Prathamesh. Can we have multiple I-20s? You can, but you cannot, there is no advantage as such, Prathamesh. You would want to actually go ahead and wait, like I said, wait for other, all the other admits, get an extension from other universities. Okay. See, because you don't want to be, and there is no hurry in booking the visa date right now. You have a lot of time to do that. The only thing that you need to get started with, and the reason why we are having this session today, is because you need to get started with all these financial documents. I want you to understand all this jargon. Who's a sponsor? What is solvency certificate? What is a fund flow? What is affidavit of support? All of this. Okay, so that it doesn't become a hassle later on. Okay, so that is the reason why you might want to wait for all the admits, and then once you get all the admits, then you go and process one I-20. I don't think that should be a problem. But in the meantime, start working on the other financial documents. Don't stop for that. Okay. I would request all of you to please put your questions on the audience question section, not on the chat. Okay, so now I have to go back to the chat. I've gone through the recording which you are. Yeah, so I think I've addressed this, Upasana, already. Until 15th April, you will receive all the other admits, I'm pretty sure. So you can start working on the financial documents. So if you're working on financial documents for one university, you can reuse it, because in none of these documents you're going to mention the name of the university. So even if you make the financial documents for one university, you can use it for other universities. What you need to understand is, when you're making these financial documents, see that you take the highest, the costliest university in mind. So let's say in this list of 6 universities that you applied, see which universities are costliest for you, and accordingly get these financial documents made for that university. So once you get it made for that costliest university, automatically it will suffice for the other universities as well. Okay. So there is no name, it is not name bound. You don't have to mention the name of the university in any of these financial documents. So you can get started with the financial documents. No problem, you can mention that, Rahul. So even if you will not be able to hide it, because they share the same last name. So you can say that your sibling is working there. No issues. Sanket says, will there be a problem if I receive just one admit? No, I don't think that should be a problem. You can, of course, you basically would want to wait for other admits and then take a call. But if you have one admit, that's also not a problem. Yeah, so if he doesn't if he doesn't have an ITR, then it's better, Rajat, to go for some other sponsor who's your immediate blood relative. Upasna, you would want to email the university and find out what is the exact cost, because right now the cost would be different for this intake. So they will give you the exact cost, the living and tuition put together. So Rajat, you would want to look for other sponsors as well. Yes, they can ask. We will take specific interview questions when we do the mock, Rahul. Prathamesh, better to put your questions here, because it's that's the reason. See, it will benefit others also, and you will also learn from. You'll also learn from others' questions. So it's better to put your questions here. Sanket, you still have time. You can, you will be able to hear from them by, even March end or April is fine. There's no rush. So Rahul, you will basically not know her reasons for returning, because those are her own personal reasons. But you should, be able to convince the visa officer of your returning. That is what they are looking at, that you should return. Okay. Any other questions? Everything is crystal clear. Shashank, no questions? Okay, everything is clear. So what I would suggest, you can reject it later, but there is a downside to it. Okay, the most important thing here is that if you accept and admit, okay, and then later on decide to reject it, you are preventing other students even in this session. I mean, there might be other students are waiting for that admit. So it's always good to think through and then accept and admit. Okay, better if you wait till till you hear. See, like I said, you are not going for visa right now. You are going to go for visa only in July, right? So you do have time for the I-20 process, because I-20 would be required only when you have to go and book the visa date. So right now you only need to the rush, the thing that you need to hurry up on is in the financial documents, the loan part and all of that. Okay, so you want to speed up on that part. Yeah, so you go with Sanket, you can go with your notice period. I don't think whatever notice period is there, accordingly you will, okay. Once you book the visa date, we will be doing the mock interviews for you, Rahul. In the meantime, guys, don't send me emails. You can address them in this way, because I'm sure the resignation and giving a notice period is a question that most of you have here. I can see that a lot of you are working. Rajat is working, Prathamesh is working, Rahul is working. So I think these are common questions. Okay, so depending on your notice period, you can go ahead and inform at your office. If it's a long lengthy notice period like 3 months, it's better to inform earlier before your visa. Okay, but if it is a shorter 1 month notice period, then you want to wait for your visa interview and then inform in the office. So the customized visa interview will be done once you book the visa date. In the meantime, we will share some of the students' experiences. Like I shared one here in the presentation. We will also share certain visa FAQs. I mean, most commonly asked questions. You can actually yes, Rahul, they will ask you why you left your job. Especially because it's still another 2-3 months down the way, right? You will be going for a visa only in July. And you also need to fill out in the form what you have been doing currently, because your visa DS 160 form mentions about your current current activities. What are you doing currently? Any more questions, guys? So I hope I've covered everything and all your doubts are taken care of. We've discussed about the extension. We have discussed about comparing the admits and then accepting, weighing all the pros and cons. We have also spoken about bank solvency letter, affidavit of support, who can be your sponsor, what is fund flow, how to fill the financial certificate that the university asks, okay, and then get the I-20. And I've also explained that you need to, whether you use the funds that you have or whether you depend totally on loan, is something that you can decide, but ideally you should show some family funds. Okay. Yeah, so Upasna, we'll be sharing this recording with students who have not attended. Do you really need this recording? Because we are planning to share this with people who have not attended today. Okay. Yeah, so so this is in a nutshell how the whole visa process uh, would work. Like I said, once you book the visa date, uh, you know, we'll start off with the mock. Yeah. There was nothing in the few minutes that you joined, Rahul. I started 5 minutes late. So don't worry about it. Okay, so anything else, guys? So most important thing, we are going to send you the form, which will also cover information about whether you need loans and which admits and rejects, which universities you applied for, all of that. So you can go ahead and fill that form carefully and then submit it. Okay. Any other questions? No. Okay. So Shashank has understood everything. I'm very happy. Great. So thanks guys for joining in. There would have been actually many more of you, should have been other, but we have only a few of you attending today. But that's good that you could spare some time, and so I hope I have actually been able to take off a lot of things off of your mind. Some myths that were circulating uh, about how difficult the visa interview is or the whole visa process is. I've tried to simplify it as much as possible. Yes, exactly what I mentioned earlier. We will be providing you with all these guidelines in terms of, yeah, so these, there'll be an entire folder that will be shared with you. But like I said, it will be done in phases. Okay. Right now we have shared the most important documents that you need to get started with. So later on we'll share the FAQs, the list of documents, how you need to arrange it, what kind of file you need to carry for the visa interview, everything. What are the financial documents, who can be your sponsor, all of that we discuss. But it will be done one step at a time. Okay, because we don't want to burden you. We'll also share the DS 160 form, how it has to be filled, what is the process to be followed. If there have been there are any questions, we'll share one sample DS 160 form so that you can have a look at it and fill yours, and then you can always get it reviewed by us. Okay, so these are some things that I wanted to mention. All these documents will be shared with you. We have an exclusive folder for you where we'll get all the access to the visa folder itself. And then some questions that students have experienced in the past. Okay. So if there are no more questions, we'll call it a day. And we'll get back to you with that form at the earliest. Do share the details at clearly, and so that we can keep a record and we'll be able to guide you appropriately. Yeah. So thanks for attending and hope this was useful, and all the best for your visa process, and for more admits, many more admits. Okay. Yes. Thank you guys. Bye. Take care.